Did you know that the construction of a single house directly led to the end of Prohibition? Hi everyone, Ken here. Welcome to this house. Born to Paul Morton and Charlotte Goodrich, Pauline was cradled in the lap of affluence and influence. Her father, a railroad executive, and her uncle, the founder of Morton Salt Company, instilled in her a sense of business acumen and civic duty. Her grandfather, Julius Sterling Morton, served as Secretary of Agriculture under President Grover Cleveland, marking the beginning of a legacy that Pauline would later embrace and enhance. Educated privately between Chicago and D.C., Pauline was prepared for a life of societal prominence. However, her ambition stretched beyond the socialite scene. Her first marriage to James Smith ended, leaving her with 2 sons and a newfound independence. Being a wealthy heiress with her own money, she could have lived lavishly, being waited on at home by an army of servants, but she aspired to do something meaningful with her life. She ventured into the business world with her own interior design business, a bold move for a woman of her time, but a move that would propel her name into the papers favorably. In 1916, Pauline married Pauline Sabin, aligning herself with a man who shared her interest in politics. Despite her husband's Democratic leanings, Pauline remained a staunch Republican. Her political career began in earnest when she became the first woman on the Suffolk County Republican Committee in 1919. Her charisma and dedication led her to found and take on the presidency of the Women's National Republican Club, where she recruited thousands and raised significant funds, marking her as a formidable force in politics. Initially, Pauline supported Prohibition, believing it would create a safer world for her sons. However, as the 1920s roared on, she witnessed the law's ineffectiveness and the hypocrisy of its enforcers.
In operation, it has led to more violation of and contempt for law, to more hypocrisy among both private citizens as well as public officials than any other thing in our national life. It is responsible for the greatest organized criminal class in this country.
She recounted standing behind elected Republican officials who would give speeches on the merits of Prohibition, only to turn around and invite her to join them for cocktails. Her disillusionment was complete when the Jones-Stalker Act intensified Prohibition's penalties, prompting her resignation from the Republican National Committee to become a conservative Democrat. But she couldn't just idly sit by when she had witnessed hypocrisy and corruption at the highest levels. Over the next decade, she developed a foolproof plan to end Prohibition once and for all. She would start at the highest levels of society and work her way down the social ladder to influence the richest and poorest families in the country. But this plan would be nearly a decade in the making. Meanwhile, she and her husband set out to build their dream house in Southampton. They purchased 314 acres and hired the architecture firm of Cross & Cross to build the finest home on Long Island. When it was completed, Pauline invited nearly every architecture and design publisher out to photograph the home she named Bayberry Land. In the days before internet, her house went viral, being featured in small newspapers and magazines all around the country. Whether you lived in a big city or in a rural community, whether rich or poor, Pauline Sabin's name was known. The nation was thrilled to see updates on each phase of the estate, from the finishing of the house to the building of the stables. Special issues were even run to feature the expansive gardens with their lavish fountains and long reflecting pools. For over a year, this saga continued as the US became more and more fascinated with Bayberry Land and the family who owned it. Entering the mansion, you would pass below the double staircase to arrive in the decadent stair hall, complete with iron balustrade, French doors, and refined wood paneling. It was filled by natural light pouring in through the solarium, offering breathtaking views of the gardens and the water. Back inside, into one end of the stair hall, the library shared these same views. It had been finished out with antique European wall panels and filled with fresh flowers from the gardens. Continuing down the hall, we will find our way through the double doors to unveil the living room. The living room was the largest room in the house, and every finish from the plaster ceilings motifs to the gilded wall panels, from the furnishings to the pottery, had been designed and hand-selected by Pauline herself. To the other end of the stair hall, the dining room also garnered attention for its unique features, such as the Art Deco fireplace paired with traditional wall paneling. These pairings of the old and new continued into the breakfast room, setting trends that would define the Roaring '20s. Now that she had a captive audience, it was time for Pauline to initiate the next phase of her plan. In 1929, she founded the Women's Organization for National Prohibition Reform, attracting numerous wealthy and influential high society women. The organization quickly grew all across the nation, transcending the social hierarchy, its membership dwarfing that of the Women's Christian Temperance Union, her main competition for the heart of America, which acted in favor of Prohibition. Pauline's eloquence and poise made her a media darling, and her arguments against Prohibition resonated with a nation weary of the noble experiment.
and that the time has come for us to organize and to become articulate and to work for some sane solution of this problem which will replace the present corruption, lawlessness, and hypocrisy with honesty and sobriety.
She stayed in the limelight for years, transitioning from an esteemed interior designer to a political activist while retaining much of the same audience. Her advocacy was not just about the ability to legally drink, it was a fight for respect for the law and the Constitution. She argued that Prohibition eroded the moral fabric of society, encouraging the youth to be labeled as criminals just because they had a drink. Her efforts culminated in the repeal of Prohibition in 1933, largely due to her leadership and the power of collective action. Later on in life, after Mr. Sabin passed away, Pauline remarried tennis icon Dwight Davis, who founded the Davis Cup International Tennis Competition. During this time, she became heavily involved with the American Red Cross, donating millions of her own money. Then, in 1943, the couple purchased a historic mansion in Washington, D.C., moving there so Pauline could consult on the renovations of the White House under President Harry S. Truman. She passed away there in 1955, but her iconic Southampton mansion persisted. It wasn't until the early 2000s that its fate became questioned. A developer purchased the estate with the intentions of demolishing Bayberry Land. There was an uproar from the public, including protests and petitions to stop its demolition, but it was to no avail. Bayberry was torn down in 2004 to make way for a golf club. The iconic mansion that witnessed the rebirth of Pauline's political career and played a pivotal role in repealing Prohibition now lives on only in photographs. Which room was your favorite? Let me know down below in the comments section. And while you're there, make sure you are subscribed with that bell notification turned on so you never miss an exciting episode of This House.